Hi guys, it's Chris, and happy 6th day, I can never say that word, 6th, 6th day of National Eating Disorder Awareness Week. I was thinking because the week is winding down and the NEDA week is finishing up, how could I end it on a positive note? What better way to bring awareness to eating disorders and educate people than to debunk some common stereotypes and myths regarding eating disorders. I believe a lot of these myths come from society and the media and how eating disorders are portrayed in certain situations. People have this, this idea of what they are and what they only are. And a lot of people think, I don't know someone with an eating disorder, so why do I have to become educated on that topic? Well, let me just say, even if you don't think you know someone with an eating disorder, I could guarantee you, you know someone with an eating disorder, whether it's a family member, a friend, just someone you have come in contact with sometime in your life. You're watching this video, you know someone with an eating disorder, and you can never have too much education on that topic. When it comes to eating disorders, what you say and your actions and, especially what you say can really influence someone negatively or positively, but mostly negatively. So you just really want to be careful about what you say around someone who is recovering or has an eating disorder. So yeah. So I have compiled a list of my top 10 myths about eating disorders, one that aren't necessarily the most important, but just that ones hit home for me, and I think these kind of cover a majority of what people should know about eating disorders. And yeah, so let's get started. Myth number 1, aka the reason why I am here on YouTube dedicating my my life right now to bringing awareness to this topic, is that men cannot have eating disorders. This cannot be farther from the truth, and this idea is very, very harmful for people to think, because if society thinks that men cannot have eating disorders, then if a young boy is experiencing certain behaviors or symptoms, they'll think, oh, it's not an eating disorder, only girls get that, so I'm not going to get treatment for my eating disorder. I've been to so many NEDA events, NEDA walks, whatever, and I see all these programs, these these treatment centers, advertising themselves, and their mottos are always something like changing a woman's life one day at a time, and then sometimes you'll get and boys in parentheses, and that is such the wrong message. You build your entire, not company, but you build your entire, treatment place off of providing women with support and treatment, and then you wonder why no boys talk about their eating disorders. And the next myth that kind of comes hand in hand with this one is that if men do get eating disorders, then they are homosexual. I think this is a common thing that people think. I mean, in my case, it's correct, but honestly, eating disorders do not care who you're going to bed with at the end of the day. I know there are certain statistics out there that kind of give, the illusion that people who are LGBT have a greater chance of developing an eating disorder, but it is not really because of them being gay. It's other factors that come in. Myth number 3 is that there are only 2 kinds of eating disorders, anorexia and bulimia. This is not the case. There are plenty others. I think the most common is binge eating disorder. There's EDNOS, there's orthorexia, there's certain not categories, there's branches of other ones as well. All of them are equally as horrible, are equally as difficult to go through, and none of them are more severe or more important than the other. The next myth is that the media, pictures of photoshopped people or looking at really thin people could develop someone's eating disorder. No, they can't. Looking at, I talk about this a lot, looking at, videos of people who are thin, or looking at pictures or whatever of someone who is thin cannot develop someone's eating disorder. They could trigger someone with an eating disorder, sure, but the concept that society causes eating disorders because of the way they Photoshop their images and, you know, this and that, that's just not true. Eating disorders are linked to genetics and environmental factors and biology and psychology. They could be linked to, you know, a traumatic event in someone's life, or it could be none of the above. They could just appear out of nowhere. They could develop out of nowhere. Which then leads me to myth number 5, is that all people with eating disorders are thin. Losing weight and being thin can be, you know, a physical side effect of an eating disorder, but there's absolutely no way to tell if somebody has an eating disorder based on the way they look. Eating disorders do not discriminate. You can be normal weight, healthy weight, you could be underweight, overweight, you could be any size and have an eating disorder. And the concept that only thin people have eating disorders is very harmful for people who are struggling with eating disorders and maybe are a medically healthy weight, and they do not think that they're sick enough to get help. People think they're looking for attention and they can have an eating disorder because they're not super thin, because for some reason eating disorders have this image of someone being extremely thin, and unfortunately that is the way they are often portrayed, you know, in movies, in society, whatever. It's sad that that's the only way that these kind of things get attention, you know, shock value. You have to have someone extremely thin to say they're anorexic, therefore bringing attention to the topic. I mean, that's good, you're getting awareness, but it's also very bad because you're setting this you know, this image up of this is what someone with an eating disorder looks like. Myth number 6 is that eating disorders are a choice, a diet, a lifestyle. I can't believe I even have to say this. You'll see often on pro-ana websites, I don't even understand that term, pro-ana. How could you be pro a mental illness? But you know, that's what they call themselves. You see on these pro-ana sites that they say, oh yeah, anorexia is a lifestyle, we could stop anytime we want to. No, this is one of the main reasons why I cannot stand these pro-ana websites, because they tell the public, they tell society, they tell the average person that anorexia is not a big deal. It is just a diet. It is something that could be stopped any minute. It's just a phase. It's just a this, just a that. It's nothing serious. Like, we could stop anytime we want to. That is so... I don't even know what to say right now. Myth number 7 is that there is a set cure for people with eating disorders, and that the minute somebody is weight restored, that they are all better. For the first part, everybody's eating disorder is different, which means everyone's recovery is different. If there was a magic pill to recover, then I'm pretty sure no one would have an eating disorder. Everybody's recovery takes a different path. Everybody hits different bumps in the road. People go through different things, and therefore their recovery is affected by different things. And just because somebody meets a certain weight or is, you know, or reaches a healthy weight, does not mean that they're mentally okay, because at the end of the day, eating disorders are a mental illness and cannot be identified by your weight. Unfortunately, when you attend inpatient programs or go into treatment, a lot of times they do solely focus on your weight, because when you look at numbers and you look at, you know, papers, that's the only thing that they can see like a change in. However, you know, it's really up here what counts, and it's hard to sometimes explain that to people. The next myth is that anorexia is the only really serious eating disorder and the only one that can actually kill. Nope. Every single eating disorder, or just disordered eating in general, has certain aspects or effects that can lead to death. Eating disorders, I think, have the highest mortality rate of any mental illness, and I saw this interesting statistic from, what website is this? eatingdisorder.org. Bulimia has a 3.9% mortality rate, nose has a 5.2%, and anorexia has a 4.0. 20% of individuals will die as a result of their illness. Once again, all eating disorders are equally as severe and challenging and serious, and they should never be taken lightly. Myth number 9 is that eating disorders are all about food. Now, one may think that because the name of the disorder is literally eating disorder, but it's really what is causing someone to cope with whatever they're dealing with by doing this with their food, doing that with their eating. You know, oftentimes food and what people put in their body is the only thing that they can have control over. That was definitely the case for me. So you just kind of cope with whatever is happening in your life by restricting, by doing this behavior, by doing that, and you sort of take it out on the food and your eating and your weight, and you focus on that to distract yourself from what's really going on. And myth number 10 is that people only have eating disorders for attention, that they'll get out of it, that they'll grow up, it's just a phase. I've heard so many horror stories of people who are struggling with an eating disorder and they do not conform to the public's, you know, view of what an eating disorder should look like. People view that as not as serious, you're just looking for attention, you're not that, you know, ill, and those people then think, well, what do I have to do to get taken seriously? I have to lose more weight, so that's what I'm gonna do. Unfortunately, people who don't know much about eating disorders do just focus on physical appearance and think that your physical appearance can determine whether or not you have an eating disorder, which is just not the case. So just try to remember that eating disorders are mental illnesses. So that concludes today's video. I could think of so many more myths regarding eating disorders. I could probably make a whole series out of this. 10 more myths, another 10, you know, whatever. Maybe you could do that. If you have any more things, like any more myths that I missed, please comment down below. I would love to hear them. Thank you for listening to this really long video. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you all soon. Bye, guys.